Attention to the world around you, you'll notice a common theme between people who are extremely successful and are where you want to be in life. Now, you're watching this video for one of two reasons. Either you notice what this common theme was and you're just more interested in hearing more about it, or you're watching YouTube while you're eating because you're bored, or whatever the heck, you're just there, just wanted to watch a video. So I was in St. Pete, I was at a realtor event, and I got to meet one of the top realtors in St. Pete, which was extremely cool, and I had an absolute blast talking with him. We ended up talking about philosophy and all this other stuff, but that's not the point. The point is I asked them, what did you do to be successful? Because at this time, I was a new agent. I was doing everything I could. I was doing open houses. I was door knocking. I was cold calling. I was doing anything that I can to find success. But the issue is I didn't get any business whatsoever. No matter how many times I tried walking people through the buying process and doing all this stuff, I got no business from it whatsoever. And so he asked me, who are you talking to? And I was like, well, I'm talking to everybody coming through the door. I'm trying to help them list their home. I told them I could try to help them list their home. I told them I could help them try to buy a home. I walked them through the whole process on both sides. If they have any questions, let me know. I give them my card, whatever. He's like, no, who are you talking to? I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, you're a realtor. If you want to end up being successful, you have to talk to other people in your own space. Because how are you going to hear about all these other things? And especially now that you're a new agent, if you want to grow, you want to learn, how are you going to do that without seeing other properties and talking to other agents? And in my head, it clicked. I had like a bright light bulb moment. I was like, he's entirely right. I need to talk to more people, because my headspace before that conversation was, okay, I need to do everything on my own. I'm gonna beat the world. It's me against the world. I have to do all these things on my own. It's me competing against all these other agents, and I'm gonna win. And so I put in all this work, doing all this stuff, and nothing was working. And so after having that conversation with him, I realized, wait a minute, it's true. If I need to find buyers, or if I need to find listings or get some advice, I need to start networking and talking to other people. And that is the key to life. The key to life is networking. The key to success is networking. Think about the most successful person you know, or somebody who's in the position where you want to be. What do you notice? They have a team around them. That's why they're efficient. That's why they're where they're at, because they have a team around them. Now, I do have a team. I have my brokerage help me with absolutely everything I need. They let me do open houses for them when I first started out and I didn't know absolutely anything. They walked me through the entire process, and they've been extremely helpful, like with everything. They've helped me do write offers. They've helped me do all the paperwork. Anything I needed, if I needed absolutely anything, I could go to my broker, and she's been absolutely amazing, and shout out to her, and she's been like a huge help in my life. But besides that being the point, you may be wondering, okay, well, how do I network? Like, how do I become successful? How do I reach that top echelon? How do I reach that level? How do I get there? Well, here's what you're gonna do. You have to have skills, and if you don't have skills, develop skills. And let's say you don't have any skills developed, you don't have anything at all. Well, then what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna find somebody who's a little bit above you, or even all the way above you, but realistically you wanna find somebody just a little bit above you. Let's say you don't have any connections, you don't know anybody at that higher level, but this is what you could do. Find somebody who's just above you, learn the skills, learn everything you can from them, and then once you do, you find somebody a little bit above you again, because now you two are on the same level, and then you do the same thing. You learn from them, you do everything they tell you to do, you find out what it is that made them successful, and then you just keep doing that. You do it over and over and over again, and eventually you'll find success, and eventually you'll meet other people who are way more successful than you, and they're way more successful than the level you're at now, and then ultimately you grow from there, because now you have this connection to somebody who's way above you. Now, luckily for me, I've had a great network. I know people in many different spaces who do many different things, and whenever I have a question in that space, I'll ask them, and they've been extremely helpful, and they've walked me through the process and walked me through what I need to be doing. And shout out to them. They know who they are. If I've ever asked you a question and you've answered and you've helped me, then shout out to you. But that being said, once you make that connection with somebody who's way higher than you are, then guess what? You could end up being extremely successful, because now you know the steps, you know the ins and outs of whatever thing you're trying to do. And not only that, you don't want to only have a connection. You don't only want to have connections in your space. Now, it is good that you have connections in your space, but ultimately, if you want to grow to a crazy level like you're seeing all these other people do, like Iman Ghazi, Alex Hormozi, or anybody else, you realize the way their teams are set up is they have people who do different jobs. And I kind of realized you need to have different people on your team if you want to grow and build stuff. But I realized this before I realized it. That makes sense. So here's the thing. I was at a restaurant with my friends and I was eating sushi and I was talking to them about real estate like I usually do. And then my other friend, he was starting to get an apprenticeship. He was doing electrical work. And then we also knew somebody else who was a welder and he knew somebody in construction. And I'm kind of sitting there eating my food and I'm thinking about like what's going on in the world, like what it is going on in real estate. What are they doing with the new properties? They're building new properties down here. They're building new ones down there. And then I realized, I know somebody who does flooring. I know somebody who does construction. I know somebody who does electrical. I could find homes. Why are we not flipping houses yet? And so I thought of the idea and I broke it down for them. I was like, hey guys, we should start flipping houses in the future. Like this is what we should be doing. So if we all start learning these trades now, learning these skills now, then in the future, like we could end up doing this huge thing. We could have this huge empire. So everybody's like start doing the work now and then we'll keep in contact over time and we'll start building these skills more and more. And then when we're ready, we're gonna hit the ground running. We're gonna take off. We're gonna do this thing all together. And so I brought the idea up and of course they were on board with it. And so now we're like in our stages of still learning and trying to get things done. That way we could actually make this dream a reality. But with that being said, as you can see there, with a team who, if you have people who do different things, you could be extremely successful, but you also have to put it in motion. But here's the other thing. You may be thinking, well, no, I could just beat everybody. Like everybody in my space, I could just overrun everybody. I know absolutely everything in the space, whatever, right? Okay, so let's put that into a scenario. Let's say you're in whatever business you're in, you're the best in your business, you're doing all these crazy things, you're the top of the top, right? Or you're not the top of the top. Let's say like you're doing fairly well for yourself. You're like in the middle of the space. You're not the best, but you're not the worst. You kind of have an idea of what you're doing. Now let's say this group of 3. 2 of them are not in that space. They're in different spaces and they have no idea absolutely anything about the business. And then there's one person who's kind of slightly below than you are. Like they kind of have an idea, but they don't know everything that you know. Guess what? When it comes to competing, these 3 are gonna mop the floor with you, if not barely beat you. Why? Because 3 heads are better than 1 and you're doing it all by yourself, so you only have your own ideas. Whereas this one, they have 3 different heads running 3 different ideas, which means they could even plug in different ideas from their spaces, or they could use their prior knowledge from the area they're in and use it to grow that business. So that's where you see you can't take everything on by yourself. You need to have a team, you need to have a group that can help you out. And here's the other thing. I'm not saying you need to be dependent on other people. That is not what I'm saying at all. You're not depending on other people. What you're doing is you're having a team and you're all sharing knowledge, you're all sharing ideas, and you're doing this all together. You're not just depending on them. You're doing your own work, you're doing your own hard work, your own respectable work, and you're merging it with other people's respectable hard work that actually makes sense. You also don't want to be doing business with idiots because that's going to cause a whole different issue. You always want to make sure your group is like ethical and morally correct and that they're actually putting in work, because if not, that's going to lead to a sticky situation. Now, with that being said, I've also heard some people say, no, I like to do everything alone because if I do it alone, it gets done correctly and I don't like working with other people. Well, if you don't like working with other people, it's going to be very hard to scale a business to such a large scale if it's only you. One person can only take on so much. There's only 24 hours in a day, and no matter how hard you're going, no matter how many hours of sleep you lose, no matter how much work you're putting in doing all this stuff, there's a threshold that it's just not going to be scalable. It's not going to be possible. You're not going to be able to do the same thing as a group of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. It's just not possible. This is not possible. The human body cannot do something like that. Just with that being said, I've also been told, no, but I had a group and nothing worked out. Everybody was lazy. They didn't do anything. And I don't want to work with them anymore. And I'm not going to work with anybody ever again. Well, here's my take on that. I'd rather have 10 bad apples and 90 good ones than not have any apples at all. And I'm just leave it at that. I'd rather have 90 good apples and 10 bad apples instead of no apples. Because guess what? I'm still eating and you're there with no apples and you're cooked because you have nothing. And here's the other thing you need to understand. Humans are social creatures. Whether you like it or not, we're still in the jungle. We just play by different rules, but the mental game is what plays a huge part now. You need to know a couple things. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. We're in our own different jungle. You need to be smart. If you want to be smart, have a group. You can even look in nature, for example. The top predators, they all hunt in groups. It's never just one. There's always a group of them, always. Animal travels in groups, they travel in packs. So why are we any different? That being said, in the future, what I'll probably start doing, once I start getting a bit more traction, and what I want to do is I want to build a community. So once I start building a community, I'll probably plug something in and try to get people to connect, because that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. So I had a friend who was who was going to school to be a lawyer. He knew an actual lawyer, and I also had a friend who was marketing. Now, that lawyer was just starting out, like he didn't have any clients. He wanted to start taking in clients, and he wanted to start like trying to build his brand. And so my friend who was in school told me, hey, I know this guy, he needs this, like this is the stuff he needs. And I told him, well, I know somebody who does marketing. Let's all get coffee and we'll talk more about it. And so we went to get coffee, and guess what? The marketing guy helped him grow his business, and he helped him start his social media ads. He started helping him running campaigns and doing all this stuff on social media to start gaining clients. And in return, he was like, hey, I'll give you a referral whenever something happens. Now, of course, he did pay him, but he also told him like, hey, I'll give you a referral if anything happens in the future. Now, if he comes in contact with a client who's in a business and they need to grow their business through marketing, he's going to call the guy who helped him, and he ends up referring him. So he's like, hey, I need you to help this guy out. And so now he's going over there to helping him out. And now he knows if he's ever in legal trouble or knows somebody in legal trouble in the field that the lawyer is, then they just go back and help each other out. And the other beautiful thing about this happening is now you ended up gaining these two connections, right? So now like this connection is now solid. So they know they can trust you, and so they meet more people. So if you need somebody who's in a different space and they know somebody in that space, then they connect you to them, and it's like a non-stop like circle, or like a non-stop group of people that you're meeting because of two connections, of you connecting these two people together. You may have heard the term that people are like stars, and yeah, one is insignificant on its own, but the moment you have like hundreds and thousands and millions, well, then you can start connecting them and they start making these crazy constellations. And to me, that makes so much more sense. And just with that being said, I want to leave you with that. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quick, when you are going networking, you don't only have to talk to people about a business, and you can talk to people about their business, but the way that I like to do it, or the way I do, I don't like to only keep the conversation about the business they're in, the business I'm in, or anything like that, because how boring is it having the same conversation 1,000 times, 2,000 times, 3,000 times a day? And it's like, if that's all you ever talk about, you get so bored of it. And so when I go out and talk to people, I ask them, hey, just real quick, this is all I do. Hey, what do you do for work? Oh, I do this. Okay, well, how is that space? And then they'll talk about it for a little bit. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, what else do you do? Like, do you like going golfing? Like, what are your top 3 movies? Like, talk to me about movies. Are you a book person? What books have you read? Are you into philosophy? What kind of philosophy have you read? Which, it's kind of funny. That's what I did when I was in St. Pete. I spoke with a guy like that. And this is the other thing I wanted to mention, because I didn't talk about it earlier. I had to redo the whole video because the camera wasn't recording. But I always ask successful people, what books have they read that have shaped them into who they are today? And let me tell you, the amount of recommendations I've gotten that have helped me grow so much is insane. Like, you can't even fathom how helpful these books were. You can't even fathom how helpful these books were. And what I do is, when they tell me about these recommendations, I'll write it down. I search up on Google or on YouTube. And on YouTube, I actually have an audio library. So on YouTube, you could search up like whatever the book name is, and then free ebook or free audio book. And then you put the audio book in like your own library. You could listen to it when you're in the car, when you're doing this, when you're doing that, whenever you want to do it. And sometimes they won't have it, so you could try Google. If Google doesn't have it, then I just buy the physical copy on Amazon. That's been my strategy, because when I've read those books, it gives me more knowledge. and it makes me more interesting. Reading books makes you more interesting, and I always recommend people to read books, even though a lot of people hate books, which that's a topic for another day. But in my opinion, a lot of people hate books because like in school, you're told read a book and then answer questions, and you have to go through like this whole thing to show that you understand the book, that you read it and all this stuff. But realistically, that doesn't even work. Like people just go to the questions and then go to the page and they just like answer the questions as they're reading the book, and they don't really take in the book. They just do the work that they have to do and that's it and forget about it. Whereas in life, like it's not like that. You're not just reading the book one time and that's it. You're never going to use it again. Those books are filled with so much knowledge, and it's kind of like a cheat code because you're reading the life of somebody else who already done or already had the same questions that you had. So by reading their stuff, by reading what they say, you can avoid obstacles that you don't need to take. You don't have to go through those obstacles because you already read what happens if you go down a certain path, or hey, you don't have to do those obstacles because you know your way around it because this person went through it. And it's a cheat code because you don't just read it one time. You could read it as many times as you want. So you could always look back at it. It's like cheating on a test. So instead of like going through life, which is the test, you have your notes right next to you. So if something happens here, you could go back in your notes and be like, okay, well, this person said when that happens, I could do this. But that's not the point. The point of this video is not to talk about books. The point of the video is networking, right? Networking. Okay. So when you talk to them, ask them about their book recommendations. It's helped me a lot. And those recommendations help me network with other people because I talked to them about those books that got recommended to me. So I would recommend it to them, be like, hey, have you read this book? Have you read that one? Have you read, I don't know, How to Win Friends and Influence by Carnegie? Have you read that book? No, you haven't? Well, it was recommended to me by this person and I read it. It was amazing. They read it. It was amazing. I feel like you should read it because I think you would love this book. It could help you grow in your space and it'll help you learn so much about people. And then guess what? They go buy the book, they read it, and they're thinking about you as they're reading the book. And so now they appreciate you more because like you helped them learn something, you helped them gain more knowledge. And so that in itself is also helping you network. You could just talk to people normally too. Besides the book thing, you could ask them, hey, what movies you watch? What's your favorite sport? Where did you live growing up? And if you live in the same area, you'd be like, oh, cool, well, I lived in this area. Like, how was it on that side? And you could just ask people and talk to them about their life. Because that's the other thing. People love to talk about themselves. I realized that over time. People love talking about themselves. So when I start talking to people, I just ask questions, let them talk about themselves, and I'll just sit there quietly, listen to what it is they have to say, because there's always some type of advice at the end of it. They're like, oh, well, this is my life. This is how things went. And if I had advice for you, this is what you should do. Now, since you're young, which I'm 19, obviously I don't look 19 because of the beard and all this stuff. And that's not the point of the video. But the point is, as you talk to them, like they'll give you advice, and they'll, in their head, they'll think, okay, well, this person's a really good listener. Ray's a really good listener. Like, he just sat there and listened to me this whole time, and I'm gonna get that book and read it, and they're gonna end up thinking about you and be like, wow, like this guy has wisdom. Like, I want to see this guy more because he's such a good listener and he gave me some knowledge. Like, he's a great person. I want to go out and hang out with this person more and network with them more. And guess what? Now you guys are networking more. You guys are hanging out again. Now you guys can talk business and grow together. And that's kind of the other thing I wanted to talk about. And I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching. And remember, the key to life is networking. If you want, DM me, email me, whatever, and I'll put you in the Discord. I want to start Discord soon, so we'll just add that, and then I'll put you in the Discord, and that way we could meet people who think like you, who think like me, and that way we could all grow and be successful together.